Namaskar. Myself Avick Biswas. I was working in Center for Archaeological Studies and Training Eastern India as a fellow. Recently, I have joined in Vidyasagar University, Dept of Anthropology as an assistant professor. Indian Museum has been taken great initiative to keep people inspired during this lockdown period. I have extremely happy become part of it and deliver online lecture on the topic of stone tool technology. From the beginning, man has been highly inquisitive about the origin of planet and also his own origin. There are basic questions we all ask. Who are we? Where did we come from? And what is our human genealogy? In prehistory archaeology, we have only two elements in our hand. One is fossilized bone and another was stone artifact. Though in latter phase we found different types of bone implement as well as different type of art object. Now we come, what is prehistoric archaeology? What is prehistory? Prehistory is that period of time when there is no written record. And what is archaeology? Archaeology is the reconstruction of the past with the help of material remains. Now if we combine together, then reconstruction of the past with the help of material remains when there is no written record. Now how do we study the culture of the past man, which is dead and gone? In prehistory, culture is an intangible reality. You cannot hold the culture, nor even you cannot photograph that culture. So culture is studied and identified through product of culture. And what is the product of culture? Product of culture is called antiquity, or in another sense you call the antiquity is the dumb witness of behavior. Now how do I name the witness or the antiquity? Like in modern time we can name like chair, table, computer. All these things we know the how it looks like, or what is the structure of the thing and what is the function. So these where the present structure and function is called the cognitive type. But we cannot say cognitive type of our past behavior, because if you have a cognitive type of our past behavior, we would make it an illusive generalization of the function of the past people's material culture without knowing the function of the product. Therefore, we have create our own name on the basis of analysis. So, product of culture is antiquity, and antiquity cannot be named on the basis of the way we name things together. So, for archaeology, we construct tool typology which are entirely defined by morphology and technology. Therefore, these types are defined by us for our convenience of description, classification and analysis. Hence, it is called analytical type. So, analytical type is identified on the basis of morphology and technology, means more technomorphology. What technology means, the how it looks like and what is the structure, and the technology what is the technique by which it manufactured. I am giving one example, like chopper. I am showing this is a chopper. Now what is the morphology of this chopper? If I go by definition, then chopper is a massive tool. Massive means is a mass, and it has a transverse working border, and some flexures are removed, maybe 3, 4 or more than that. This is the morphological character. Morphology is a massive tool and a transverse working border, and some flexure has been removed. And now come the technology. Which technique is employed to make this chopper? It may be block and block technique, it may be stone hammer technique. So this morphology and technology will give a name of a tool. The name of a tool is a chopper. Another example I am giving, this is hand axe. So what is the morphology of this hand axe? We know hand axe is a triangular in shape. It's a triangular shape where the working edge is pointed, where the button is heavy, and in working edge or you can call it a working edge is thinner, where the button is a thicker. This is the morphology. And what is the technique of manufacture? The technique which is responsible or which is used for manufacturing the handbags may be stone hammer technique or maybe cylinder hammer technique, and before that also we can use block and block technique. So these combination of technique as well as the morphology character give the shape or the name of a tool is called hand axis. So now problem is that already we told that in previously we are dealing culture. Now what is culture? If we go by definition of culture, then we go by definition of culture is given by Tyler, which was given in 1871. In Tyler definition, Tyler mentioned that culture is basically all behavior and belief. So beliefs and behavior together form culture. Now tell me, how do you know what is the belief and behavior of the antiquity? You can ask the antiquity that what was the belief and behavior to produce them, and they just can't reply. So basically you are in a tricky position making a science out of the product of behavior but not talking about the behavior per se. Since we are not talking about the behavior of the antiquity, somebody will ask this question. You are analyzing behavior without knowing the behavior, and so we will say no, we'll do the behavior part, but we'll dealing with the interpretation. Analysis is the vast, real, hardcore science where we deal with the morphology and then technology. In interpretation level, we can say, well, this must have been like this tool. This must have been used for digging purpose, or this tool must have been used for making a hole, or this must have been used for chopping purpose. So we can take a piece of antiquity and say this must have been used for this function, but the 1 million year before present or 40,000 year before present, the function may be not be the same like today. So there is a fine division between the method of interpretation and method of objective analysis. So method of interpretation you can do with certain attributes. So stone tool technology will be understood on the basis of this attribute. So now I will give some classic example and what is the technique of making stone tool technology. So before we go into stone tool technology, first we should understand what is core and what is flake. If I'm showing one in fact knapping, or in fact how to make a core or flake. So for understanding core or flake, you take two stones. One stone is called hammer stone, which is rounded in shape. So you take one piece of stone and hit another piece of stone, and something will knock off. The things which will knock off is called the flake, and the thing which will in your hand, it will be called the core. So the knock off thing will be, I'm showing one demonstration, like just in fact because I have only one piece. So you are seeing, so something is knock off. I am hitting with the help of one hammer stone, and I hit this portion. The piece which is attached before the detach is called the scars of detachment, and in a core where you put the strike, the portion is called striking platform. With the hammer stone I am giving one strike and something is knock off. The thing is knock off, we are calling the flake, and the thing which is in my hand is calling the core. And now you see in this flake there is some bit of elevated part, or you can call it some bit of convex part. So the thing which is elevated part we will call the positive bulb of percussion. Like this one is a flake, and this one again this one is a experimental, and this one is archaeological. You can see some elevated part. This elevated part is called the positive bulb of percussion. While in the core which is in your hand, there you will find some depression portion or the concave part. This one is called the negative bulb of percussion. So this striking platform as well as positive bulbar percussion or negative bulbar percussion. These things we are calling some attributes, and these are the deterministic attribute to identify core and flake. Now the question is how this flake is detached and which technique is used for making the tools. So for understanding, I am going to stone tool technology. In stone tool technology, first we divide into two parts. One is percussion, another one is pressure. What is percussion? Percussion where your hand or object is moving. There is some kind of swinging blow. Your hand is moving or the object is moving. That is called percussion. Where is another type is the pressure. In the pressure, where is nothing is moving. Where you will move nothing in this case. Just simply tap or gentle tap. Some flakes will remove. So in percussion, again we divide into two parts. One is direct percussion, another one is indirect percussion. So direct percussion means you understood the directly you give the blow or the directly you strike, then it's called direct percussion. Or indirect percussion where your blow is not given directly, some kind of intermediate object will be involved when you are giving blow. So in direct percussion, again there are different types. First type is called the bipolar technique. What is bipolar technique? The name itself suggests that there will be some pole. There will be some two poles are there. One pole is the below surface where you keep the stone. So that is called anvil. On anvil you will keep this kind of round stone. Though this one is already I made on the basis on the basis of bipolar technique. So this is the round stone. This round stone or the pebble you are selecting for bipolar technique, or you can call this one is core you are selecting for removing flake. Now you understood this core has no use, but when with the help of bipolar technique you bring out some flake. That flake may be used for certain purpose. So you keep this pebble like thing on anvil, then with the help of this hammer stone you give a blow, and resulted that something it will divide into two poles. So this division, after this division, then these things are called the flake, and with the help of flake you can cut something. In fact you can chop or you can scrape something. So in the round scroll which has no function, but with the help of bipolar technique you divide into two poles. This type of technique also found in recent discoveries is Lomician site, which was found in Kenya. It dates almost 3.3 million years present, where technology suggests that our ancestors like Australopithecus afarensis, Caniopithecus fraterops, these species use this bipolar technique to removing the flake with the help. Though there is other technique also involved there. So in fact the bipolar technique is the same. How our closest ancestor or primates called like chimpanzee or even gibbon, they are in fact removing a nut from a core of a nut. So these bipolar technique is the same. And the next technique is called the block and block technique. Means you are selecting a block of stone and hit another block of stone. So that is called a block and block technique. Sometimes in fact this block and block technique is used for removing flakes, and then these flakes are used for making hand axes and cleavers. Again these block and block technique and then bipolar technique, both techniques are mostly primitive in nature, where people are not aware of more technological knowledge. And after that the technique comes we call the stone hammer technique. Stone hammer technique also stone hammer technique is the technique which I shown already, that you are taking a hammer which is made on stone. So that hammer you are employed on core and some flakes are removed. So that is called the stone hammer technique, which is already shown to you. This stone hammer technique in fact you found in different parts of the Africa, where in initial part like old one industry where stone hammer technique was employed to make the chopper chopping tool. Even in India also, in Sohan area, there are many chopper chopping tools have been found. Even that stone tools was made on the basis of stone hammer technique. Like I am showing an example. This one is experimental chopper where I used stone hammer technique for removing some flakes, and after that it may be used for some kind of chopper chopping activity or maybe cutting activity. So this stone hammer technique, the hominid is responsible, is we know is like called Homo habilis. And after this stone hammer technique, in fact the next technique is called the cylindrical hammer technique. The name itself suggests cylindrical hammer technique means, like where the previous technique stone hammer technique we are using some kind of stone, while in case of cylindrical hammer technique this hammer stone is look like some kind of cylindrical in shape, like this cylindrical in shape. So in that time, in prehistoric time, though they are using some kind of branches of tree or even antler or even bones to remove flake. So why they are using this cylindrical hammer technique? Like these hand axes, and these hand axes I made with the help of stone hammer technique. And sorry, excuse me. So these hand axes I made on stone hammer technique. But though I have no for cylindrical hammer, I don't have any in fact antler or even bones. That's why I'm not perfecting these hand axes, and it is look like a avivilio type of hand axes. Well, this archaeological specimen, you can see a very good border or in fact sharp cutting edge on both the sides. So we can call this, after in fact employed some stone hammer technique, some kind of cylindrical object or maybe bone or antler may be used for sharpening the border and very good cutting edge you can see. So these are the cylindrical hammer technique, and the cylindrical hammer technique profusely seen in case of Acheulean specimen which is found all over the world. And these cylindrical hammer technique was profusely used by our ancestors. It's called the Homo erectus. After the in fact these technique means bipolar technique or even this block and block technique or stone hammer technique or cylindrical hammer technique, mostly found in the lower Paleolithic culture, where these techniques are mostly used, though in fact these techniques also found in the different parts, but in negligible in number. And after the technique comes is called the control flaking technique. Again, control flaking means you understood that before that the technique we already discussed. That time we are using some kind of core or making core tool. We are using those techniques. But this control flaking technique, we are more control over the flake. So now these flakes we are removing. That flake we are used for making tools. So first technique in control flaking technique is called the Clactonian technique. Clactonian technique, if we go for definition, then a core can be take a very limited number of flake, because of as soon as the direct of the force become vertical, the core shattered into several chips. So because of the reaction of the rigidity, then Clactonian technique attempt to overcome these limitation by changing the point of which the hammer strike every time a new flake is removed. That is, first a massive flake is removed from one surface by using block and block technique, which I already discussed, and for removing of the second flake, the flake skirt of the first flake is used for the platform, and for the removal of the third flake, the flake skirt of the second flake is used at the platform. The process is repeated until the core is fully exhausted. Usually the flakes are massive in size and with high flake angle and do not have specially prepared platform. The specially prepared platform we are seeing in our next technique is called the leveloir technique. Leveloir technique is another name of the leveloir technique, also called the pre-prepared coat technique. It shows the flakes were first we are thinking of some flake and then give birth to. Generally, cylindrical hammer technique is used for the final blow. A suitable core is taken and few flakes are taken off its surface in a centrally directed manner. Subsequently, a faceted platform is created by giving horizontal blow. Once the platform is prepared, a blow is given on it so that a flake is produced which have been truncated end. A leveloir flake is usually thin and moderate size and with some characters, like the flake angle is usually 90 degree, where in case of Clactonian its flake angle was more than 120 degree. The striking platform has been at least 2 scars to be considered as faceted, and finally at least 2 flake scars on the dorsal surface of the flake do not have their point of impact. The core from which these flakes are taken out are called the leveloir core or the tortoise core. Like I am showing one, this leveloir flake. This is in fact leveloir core, and you can see the shape of this. The shape of this core is more like a tortoise in shape. Is a baby tortoise, so tortoise core, and then you can see with the help of hammer stone I am giving one blow after removing the initial flake, and the flakes are removed, and these flakes, after that in fact I do some kind of retouching, then these flakes are very good for using cutting purpose. Even with the help of your precision give, you can use this flake, or you can use this flake for in fact for your skinning off, or sometimes in fact very good use for is as a knife or for a cutting purpose. This is the leveloir technique, and this Clactonian technique and leveloir technique, we in fact another technique I am not discussing, in fact Mousterian technique that is found in Europe. These techniques are used for mostly for removing the flakes, and the culture is responsible for these techniques are the Middle Paleolithic culture. Again, if I am not taking the cultural terminology, because some technique is continue. In fact stone hammer technique, or in fact this cylindrical hammer can continue in fact up to Middle Paleolithic also. So in fact mostly these techniques are responsible for the Middle Paleolithic and European variety. The hominid responsible for this is called the Neanderthal, and after that we know is in fact these types comes under the direct percussion technique, and another percussion technique which I already told, that indirect percussion. Indirect percussion, where you are not hitting directly with the help of hammer some intermediate object like this. Some kind of intermediate object was used for knocking of the flake. Maybe that these intermediate object will be in fact antler, or sometimes in fact branches of tree, or sometimes bones. So this intermediate object was used for to removing the flake, and keep these intermediate objects in between, and the hit was given directly on this intermediate object with the help of hammer stone, and some flakes has been removed. This flake we are calling blade. If we go by blade's definition, then we know blade is a elongated piece of a flake having 2 parallel sides, length greater than or is equal to twice breadth. So the flakes which has been removed by indirect percussion technique, these flakes we are calling the blades. So all blades are one kind of flake, and another technique is called the pressure flaking technique. Pressure flaking technique I already told, where you are not giving any blow or like you're swinging in nature. There you are giving simply a tap, like you are keeping your core in between your legs, and you are giving the simple tap. and then some flakes have been removed. Again, the resultant of these flakes is called blade or bladeless, which has been used in the next technique is called the fluting technique. And fluting technique is a technique by which series of blades are prepared by pressure flaking technique. The core from which these blades are removed look exactly like the fluted pair of Greek architecture in miniature form, hence the name fluting technique. A suitable core is taken and also its length small nibbling is done from both the sides. This results into a crest-like feature on which pressure flaking is easier to execute. The first blade which prepared is called the crease guided blade. The pressure can be applied by using pointed bones or antler or even specially prepared wood. In what manner this process was executed will perhaps never be known, but archaeological evidence often enough to prove of a complete perfection of this technique having been mastered by the people, and also blade was removed by the rapid succession. And then now we are coming the last stone technology is called the grinding and polishing technique. Though this grinding and polishing technique is a combination of four techniques called flaking, baking, grinding and polishing. Like from the stone hammer technique, we are removing some flakes and giving one shape like edges or axe, and then these tools have been grinded with the help of water and sand, and then we are perfectly make some kind of polished stone tools, which probably, again I am saying, is probably was used for cutting tree. So this technique is in fact we found in the Neolithic culture. So these techniques, though already discussed, was our ancestor or the prehistoric peoples are used for making stone tools, and these stone tools was made on readily or easily available rocks like quartzite, quartz, chert, chalcedony, jasper, etc. The many types of rock has been used, or in fact they exhausted for making this stone tool technology. Thank you very much.